Welcome. Today we're going to talk about Parshas Vayeilech, and because it's a short Parsha and it's Yom Kippur coming, so I'll also maybe say something about Yom Kippur. So the Parsha begins like this: Vayeilech Moshe, Vaydaber es hadvarim ha'eleh. Moshe went. What is the meaning of Moshe went? Where did he go? What did he do? So there are different pshatim in the Mefarshim about what this means. Rashi says, the next pasuk says like this: I'm 120 years old, and I cannot go out and come back anymore. Okay? So Rashi says, later, okay. Rashi says like this: what is leyuchal latzei v'lavai? I can't go out and come back. Yachal, I would think, shetoshes koicha, he became weak. He didn't have the koich anymore. Talmud loimer, the pasuk says later, leichas ha'einoi v'leinos leichai. That means he was fully healthy. Alamau leyuchal, what does it mean I can't? Eini rishai, I'm not allowed to. Shenitla memeni harishus v'nitna li ha'yeshua. This is one pshat Rashi says, that the rishus was taken away from me, I can't do it. Dover acher, Hashem amar alai zepirish liyuchal lotzeis, fish Hashem amar alai. Dover acher, lotzeis v'lavai b'divrei Torah. I can't be mefalpel in divrei Torah anymore. Melamed shenistatmu mimenu mesoyros umayonis chacham. This is a Gemara in Soita that his koiches in Torah were closed down to a certain extent. So there's two pshatim in Rashi. The first pshat is that I'm not allowed to go out and come back. Rashi doesn't explain what this means. The second pshat means that I can't discuss the Torah to the same level that I did before, because it's nistatmu. But it clearly doesn't mean that he was physically debilitated. So some want to say that the Vayeilech Moshe means that he was walking back and forth in front of everybody. I don't remember which Mefarish says this. He's walking back and forth in front of everybody to show that he was at his full koiches. Okay, I would like to say a different pshat than that. Now, later, Moshe says like this: V'yom Moshe Yeshua, Leini kol Yisrael, Chazak ve'ematz, ki ata sova yesa'oma zeh la'oretz, hashnish b'Hashem la'voisam. You strengthen yourself, because you are going to come together with this nation to the land that was promised to your ancestors. Now, so Rashi says, later the pasuk says like this: Vayom Hashem el Moshe, call Yeshua, vatzavenu, and I will give him a command. The Rebbeinu Shalom is going to command Yeshua. And then after Rebbeinu Shalom talks to Moshe, then says Vayitzaves Yeshua ben Nun. Rashi explains that this is, at this point, he's not talking to Moshe anymore. Now he's talking to Yeshua. So he told him like this: Chazak ve'ematz, strengthen yourself. Ki ata toviyas b'nei Yisrael's hearts. You will bring them. There's a difference between tovoi and tovi. Tovi is lashon kal, that means you will come. Tovi means you is hifil. You will make them come. You will bring them. That's the difference, kal and hifil. So when Moshe told it to me, he said, "Ata tovoyas am," you will come with them. And when the Rebbeinu Shalom told him, he said, "Ata tovi." So Rashi explains this. Ki ata tovoyas am, harei at teyul im amahodein. He brings the onkelos that you will come with these people. Moshe Amar li Yeshua, Moshe told Yeshua, Zkenim shebedar yiyamcha, all the Zkenim will be together with you. Hakol fidata v'atzasam. Whatever you're going to do, you have to consult with the Zkenim. It has to be a consensus opinion. You can't do anything unilaterally. So Tovei Sam, you come with them, and they're all with you, and you have to consult with them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Amar li Yeshua. When Rabbi Shalom told him, he said, Ki ata tovi es bnei Yisrael el haaretz. You will bring them. Tavi al chacham, against their will. Hakol toli b'cha, everything is dependent on you. Tul mako, take a stick, v'hachal kol kodem, hit him on the head. Dabar echad l'dar, v'lo shnei dabar l'dar. There's only one leader to a generation, not two. You don't have to listen to the Zekanim. You can, you're an autocrat. You could do whatever you want. Dabar echad l'dar, and ata taviyasam. So Moshe told him ata taviyasam, and Rabbi Shalom told him ata taviyasam. So how could there be a difference between Moshe? Moshe was also talking al pi adibur. Everything that he said over here was al pi adibur. He told him ata taviyasam because al pi nevuah, al pi adibur, he said that to Yeshua. So he told him ata taviyasam, and the Rabbi Shalom told him something else. How could there be a stira between the two things? So, we spoke back in Parshas Pinchas that that Moshe was asking for, in the Skufas HaShoftim, the Klal Yisrael was led by a shofet. A shofet was not a melech. And Moshe Rabbeinu was asking Rabbeinu Shloilem that he said, Yifkad Hashem Elokei Rucha Es Ish Eloheda he told them they should appoint a melech. In other words, he felt that it was too early to expect Klal Yisrael not to have a ruler, Isha Yosher Bein of Yasa, a melech b'Yisrael, Isha Yosher Bein of Yasa, and to be completely self-controlled and only have a shofet who's going to paskin for you. It's a little bit too early. They still need a king. So Memele, he was asking that the Rebbeinu Shalom should appoint a king. And this king was Yeshua. Now the Gemara says in Yuma, the Fayin Gimel, the Gemara says, Ein Shaylim Kenes Urim V'tumim, only a melech. And it says, Lefnei Elazar Kohen Yamoid, and it's talking over there about Yeshua. So you see from there that Urim V'tumim has to be a melech. Rashi says this is Yeshua. So we see over there, the Vayin Gimel, that Yeshua was a melech. So there was three things that Moshe was. Moshe had three roles. He was a Navi. He was a Navi. He brought on the nevuahs, the tzivuyim of the Rabbeinu Shloilem, his mitzvahs, his messages, his warnings. All these things were a Navi. He was also a shofet. He was the one who taught the Torah, and he paskined, and he was the head of the Sanhedrin. So he was also a shofet. And also, he was a melech. Moshe was a melech. Moshe was, like see in B'yomim Ein Melech Yisrael Fnei Melech, Melech Vayeilech, Melech Al Yisrael, the Mefarshim say it means Moshe. Moshe was a melech. So these are the three roles that he had. Now, at this point, after this point in the Torah, Moshe is no longer a shofet, and he's no longer a melech. From this point on, he turns over he gives over his roles as shofet and melech, and from this point on, he's only a navi. He can give mitzvahs, he can say the shira, he can give brachas. There's no more. He doesn't pass meshaylos anymore. He's not a melech. He doesn't. That's it. He's only a navi. So I think that's what Vayeilech means. That Vayeilech means that he stepped away from his roles. Kaviyachal, he retired. Vayeilech. That's it. Finished. I'm no longer a shofet. I'm no longer a melech. So what he says, Ashalei Uchal Lotzeis V'Lavoi, he's referring to being a melech, because that's what it says in the pasuk in Pinchas. That is Ishal Eda Lefneim. That's a melech. So he says, I can't do that anymore. I'm not a melech anymore. That's the first thing. What's with a shayfet? So that's, I think that the Dover Acher of Rashi, the two things, may not necessarily be two pshatim. It's two things. One thing, the is telling you he's not a melech. It's also telling you that he's not a shayfet and that he can no longer have masa matna and Torah. They're both. It's both. I don't know what Dover Acher means necessarily two pshatim. But upon him, after this, he was no longer a shayfet, no longer a melech. Now, Moshe giving over his role to Yeshua. So the only thing that he is authorized to give over to Yeshua is the role of Shayfet. The Shayfet can appoint another Shayfet. So Bela, he can tell him that you you're going to be the Shayfet. Didn't say a Melech. Moshe is not authorized to appoint a Melech. That has to be by the Rabbeinu Shalom. It can't be. It's not. There's no Mashiach, there's nothing. It has to be, the Rebbeinu Shalom has to directly appoint him. Moshe cannot appoint a Melech. All he can do is to appoint a Shayfet to join the Sanhedrin and be the Rosh of the Sanhedrin. So that he could do. So Moshe told Yeshua, Ata Tovei Esa'am, you're going to come with them, but you don't have unilateral power. You have to deal with this Canaan. You have to do with the whole Sanhedrin. You can't decide for yourself. Consult with the Sanhedrin, and among all of you, you will decide what to do. Ata Tovei Esa'am. But when the Rebbeinu Shalom spoke to him, at that point, the Rebbeinu Shalom appointed him a melech. The point where Yeshua became a melech is when the Rebbeinu Shalom told him, Ata Tovei Esa'am. That's when he appointed him as a melech. So this Rebbeinu Shalom did. So there's no stira. Moshe was only authorized to appoint him to be a shayfet. And that's Ata Tovei Esa'am. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom, when he told him that you are the melech, he said Ata Tovei Esa'am. Daber echad l'dar v'shnei dabarim. If you're a melech, then there's only one melech. You can't have two melachim. So that's the pshat over here. And that's what Vayeilech means, that he stepped away from these two roles. The first role he handed over directly to Yeshua. The second role of Melech, he was not permitted anymore to be a Melech, so he was removed from being a Melech, but the successor only came later when the Rebbeinu Shalom spoke to Yeshua and he told him, Ata Tovei Esa'am. So, I'd like to say a couple of things about Yom Kippur. So, we say Al Chet. We say Al Chet many times on Yom Kippur, many times. Hashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu. Then we say all the Al Chets. So if you look at all the Al Chets, Gazalnu. What's Gazalnu? We know there's been Olam L'Makam, then Olam L'Chaverei. So what's Gazalnu? Gazalnu's been Olam L'Chaverei. Chamasnu, Yatznu Ra, Kizavnu, Latznu, Niyatznu. All these are in Odom L'Chaverei. In Al Chet we say, Baino Asreya, Bezilzl Ha'irem U'Moirem, Chava Shoichad, Lashon Hara, Maso Matan, Neshech Marbes, Rechilus, Sinas Chinam. All these are Ben Odom L'Chaverei. And we know that Yom Kippur is not Mechaper Ben Odom L'Chaverei. You have to ask Mechila from the person. So what are we doing here? Why are we asking the Rebbeinu Shalom for all these things? It's Ben Odom L'Chaverei. Why are we asking for these things? Now, I was once in the Beis Olam, and there was somebody there, and he had a minyan, and I didn't know what it was. I asked somebody what it is. He said that this person did a very bad thing to another person. He did a very big thing to him. He hurt him very badly. So he brought him in to the basic forest to ask him mechila. It says in Shulchan Aruch that's what you do. But what does this mean? Like what? Like the mace is there. He hurt him. I mean, what is he doing? He's standing over there with the minyan. You ask him mechila. What kind of what? How does that work? So I think we think that there's been not one l'chavera. It means I send to Rebbeinu Shalom, I send to another person. But the truth is that you can't send to another person. Another person is not God. You can't have sense to other people. You can only have sense to the Rebbeinu Shalom. If you do a benam l'chavera, that is a different kind of avera, benam l'makam. Everything is, there's only benam l'makam. Averas are all benam l'makam. But certain of those averas involve other people. If, let's say you steal, so you cause a damage to another person. You can't come to Rabbeinu Shalom and ask him. Now you have to ask mechila for the chet. He did a chet. This is a chet. Who do you ask mechila from? Not from that person. He's not capable of being meichel you. You have to ask mechila from the Rabbeinu Shalom. The chet was to the Rabbeinu Shalom. But before you correct, before you fix the damage that you did, you can't ask the Rabbeinu Shalom for mechila. You went and stole something, the money is in your house, then you go to the Rebbeinu and say, I'm sorry, be meichel me. Did you give it back? Did you fix it? Did you repair the damage? Before you repair the damage, you cannot ask the Rebbeinu Shalom for mechila. And even when you ask the person for mechila, let's say you owe somebody money, and he is your baldover. When it comes to a chet, he's not your baldover. The Rebbeinu Shalom is your baldover. When it comes to a financial chayv, and you owe somebody money, then he's your baldover. If he's meichel you, then he's meichel you. The thing is wiped away. You don't have a chayv anymore. Even if he really didn't want to, even if he really still bears resentment, and he really, he didn't want to do it, but listen, he said it. The chayv is wiped out. But if you go to somebody and you ask him for mechila, for a chet, that you hurt him, that you did a terrible thing to him, and he says he's meichel you, it's not over. Unless he's really, really meichel you completely, that you completely repair the damage of what you did. I spoke once to a Russian Jew. I'm also a Russian Jew on one side, the other side Galiciana. And I spoke to a Russian Jew, an immigrant from Russia, and a certain Rosh Yeshiva made some kind of disparaging remark about Russian Jews to him. He felt very hurt. Then the next day, the Rosh Yeshiva called him up and said, I'm sorry, you meichel me? So he told me, sure. I said, yes, what you going to say? But I asked him, how did you feel? He says, he didn't feel better. He still feels like mamish hurt to the core. He didn't feel better. So that Rosh Yeshiva, I don't know who it was, that Rosh Yeshiva was not Yoitza. He didn't repair the damage. If you look in Rashi in Rei, he says that about a mason that you shouldn't be meichelim. He's begging you for mechila. If you want to ask somebody for mechila, you have to beg for it. You can't just say meichel me in shul. You walk around meichel me. What is it? Doesn't mean anything. If you didn't do anything, so I say it. If you did something, you have to be mephias the person. You have to make him feel better. Our Futner used to say that you don't say "Will's mit Meichel sein." Will sein be Yedidus mit dir. You have to come to a point where the hurt, as much as possible, is removed. That's what you have to come to. So just because he says it, you ask him for mechila and says he's Meichel, that doesn't remove the hurt. It doesn't remove the damage. So if you owe him money and says he's Meichel you, that's his right. He wants to be Meichel you, so he can be Meichel. If he's Meichel, it's then he didn't really feel so good about it. That's his problem. But if you're talking about a chet, that you did Hainoas Reya, you said a nasty thing to this person, and then he's not capable of removing your chet. He's not. He can't say, you have no chet anymore. He can't do that. All he can do is, He could say, if he says I'm moichel you, so then it's misofa l'chutz, and then the damage is still there. So you have to, you're not finished. You have to continue. You have to kindly press him and say, you're really moichel me. You have to send them flowers and presents, and you have to, whatever you do, you have to do this. And then, only then can you come to the Rebbeinu Shalom and say, okay, I repaired the damage. What can I do more than that? I could, what can I do? I could lie down in front of him. And I did as much as I could. So then you can come to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Then the Rebbeinu Shalom will consider being Michael you for the chet. But the chet is bein Adam lamokim. So that's when you go to the Beis HaKvaros with 10 people. You don't say, okay, I'll hurt him his whole life. Afterwards, I'll go to his grave. I'll take 10 people. I'll say Michael, and we're done. No. The whole point is to show how remorseful you are. But there's nothing you could do anymore because the person is dead. You can't be mefayis him. So then if you bring 10 people and you go to the Beis HaKvaros and you beg and you say, I'm sorry, and you cry a little bit, and then you show the Rebbeinu Shalom that you really are sorry, and you really, what can you do? There's nothing, the damage is irreparable. There's nothing you could do. So nothing I can do, okay, so what should I do? So you come to the Rebbeinu Shalom and you ask him for mechila. So even if you ask the person for mechila, before you ask for mechila, it's a bracha l'vatala to say this, because it's worthless. Before you make any attempt to repair the damage, it's ridiculous to say this. It's nothing. But if you ask mechila, if you did ask for mechila, chances are that it didn't, but you do as much as you can, and there's still damage over there, and you tried very, very hard, then you can come to the Rebbeinu Shalom and say, listen, I did what I could, I tried very hard. Be moichel me. Go 3 times in 3 different places. Doesn't mean, as it says in the halacha, doesn't mean moichel me. No, okay. The next day moichel me. No, it means you run after him and you constantly beg him, and you beg him to be moichel you in different situations and different words. Then you're really making an effort. So you have to show that you're making an effort as much as possible to repair the damage. So that's the inyan of B'nam L'Chaver B'nam. People think that B'nam L'Chaver means that's between me and him. It's not between me and God, it's between me and him. It's not true. There's no such thing as B'nam L'Chaver. Everything is B'nam L'Chaver. It's one thing. I want to say another short thing, a thought. That in Musaf, on the Yom Neroyim, the Chazaras Hashatz, he says like this: Elokeinu v'Elokei Avosseinu, Hayei im pifiyos shluchei amcha beis Yisrael. You should do this. Is he's saying, please help us daven. Okay, so he says like this: Ha'imdim levakesh tfilas achnunim amcha beis Yisrael. So he says, Hoyrei masha yomeru. Teach them what they should say. Havinei masha yidaberu. Give them to understand how they should speak. Hashivei masha yishalu. Give them what they ask for. Yadim hechiforu. Let them know how they should praise you. So we have 4 things here. The first, the second, and the fourth refer to how you should daven. Hoyrei masha yimeru, havinei masha yidaberu, yadim hechiforu. But the third thing, Hashivei masha yishalu, give them what they ask for. That's what is this doing in this list? This is showing you how to daven. He's telling you, or maybe you mean that after all the davening, then please give us what we asked for. Then it should be the 4th. It shouldn't be the 3rd. In the middle of this list, you have Hashivei masha yishalu, which is really puzzling. So I want to say a pshat. I'm not sure that this is actually the pshat, but maybe it is. Certainly, it's an idea that needs to be said. So, in the kedusha of Yom Neroim, then you say like this: there's a minhag that when the chazan says Aye, in the Sfar Tzedurim have it. I'm not sure if the Ashkenaz Machzorim have it. So there's a minhag that when the chazan says Aye, then there are 3 rotzens on the bottom that you could say. 3 rotzens. One of them is al oisher muflik. If you want to become very rich, then you say this Yiratzen. It's actually the longest Yiratzen. Which is another thing to talk about. The next thing is Asogas Ruach HaKodesh. And the third thing is Bonim Tzadikim. So, 3 very good things. I'm talking about, Oisher, imagine they're going to use it for good things. I'm not saying Oisher, you should just indulge yourself in everything, but support yeshivas, marry off your sons. And I'm assuming it's for good purposes. Asogas Ruach HaKodesh and Bonim Tzadikim, you want good children. 3 things. What do people ask for? I would say that most people ask for Oisher. You want money. Everybody asks for money. And Bonim Tzadikim also. But you say this a number of times, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and you have the opportunity once in a while to say something else. You don't have to do every single time Oisher, Muflik, not every single time. Every Kedusha, Oisher Muflik, you want to make sure the Baruch Shalom knows what you want. They keep saying it again and again and again. You should know exactly what you want. But, okay, maybe once you'll say, twice you'll say Bonim Tzadikim. How about Ruach HaKodesh? Does anybody ask for Ruach HaKodesh? Ruach HaKodesh, I think it's a fabulous thing to have Ruach HaKodesh. Unbelievable. I think everybody would assume that it's a good thing to have Ruach HaKodesh, not only to predict the stock market. Ruach HaKodesh is a tremendous madrega. And so why don't people ask for it? I don't think, K'mat nobody asks for it, maybe Yechidim. But why do they ask for it? I think the reason they don't ask for it is they don't know what it is. They don't understand what it is. They know it's a good thing, but they don't know what it is. What's Ruach HaKodesh? So if they ever had a taste of Ruach HaKodesh, they would ask for it, if they knew what it was. So I think that's what you're saying over here, Yashiva Mashi Yishalu. People don't know how to daven. They don't know what to ask for. They're asking for Oisher. They don't know what to ask for. Give them something, a taste of something, so they'll know what to ask for. Give them a taste of what it means to finish a Masechta, and to know it well, and to understand it. To do something great. Give them a taste of that, which some people just never have it. They sit and they learn a little bit, they come to a shir, even they go to Daf Yomi, let's say, but give them a taste. Maybe Daf Yomi, you could also have this taste, if you're really into it. But, you're into it, and you're finishing the sechtas, and one after another, and you get a charge, and you feel like, you feel like Gavaldik. So then you would ask, please, help me finish Daf Yomi, and help me do it again and again. You would ask for that. Because then you have the taste of what it is. But a person who never learned it, they go, sit down every day, that you don't ask for it. So what he's saying over here is Ashive Mashi Yishalu. Give them a little bit of what's good for them, so they'll know what they should ask for. Maybe you should give them a dot of Ruach HaKodesh. I don't know how that, but of other things at least, give them a taste of the things that have real value and real sipuk nefesh. Give them a taste for that, so they'll know the other things they should ask for besides Oisher Muflik. Thank you very much. Everybody should have easy tainus, and all our tefillah should be in this Kabul Birotzen, and the Mir Hashem. We'll see you next week.